So now we're going to talk about your day-to-day routine and how to make this as easy as possible so that you can follow it now, next week, next month, and into the future as well. So let's start off looking at routine and basically think about what makes up a routine. First of all, it's the basic meals, and we're going to have a quick chat about them, just a quick review. Then we're going to have a look at your environment and really making it easier on you to change your behavior. Next up, we're going to have a quick look at the 12 on, 12 off principle. Then we're going to talk a bit about water, a bit about coffee and tea, a little bit about snacks as well, and also about how we can photo log our meals. Finally, I'll briefly mention sleep again because it really is that important. So the basic meals that we start with are beans, lentils, low-fat protein, and green vegetables. Now, as we know, beans and lentils come in a wide variety, and the low-fat proteins we can choose from chicken, fish, eggs, red meat, turkey, and also a few other options too. With the green vegetables, there's plenty there to choose from as well. And with these meals, we simply eat 4 of them per day, around 4 hours apart. Now, it's important to find meals that you can make easily, quickly, and that you really enjoy. And for that reason, a bit later on today, we'll be taking a look at breakfast with some specific examples. Next up, I want to talk about how you can change your behavior as easily as possible. And to do that, all you need to do is change your environment. Changing your environment is actually the easiest way to make a new habit. Now, that means perhaps throwing out some of the old food that's sitting around in your cupboards. But if you really need to hang on to something, find a cupboard that you don't open every day. If you put all of that old food in that one cupboard so that you know that it's there if you need it, but you're not always seeing it, it's actually going to make things a lot easier in the first few weeks. Likewise with the fridge, if there's things in there that don't fit in with this new method of eating, the easiest thing to do is just throw them out or give them away. But of course, if there are things that you absolutely need to hang on to, then my suggestion is to use brightly colored tape and actually tape them up. Not tape them closed, but tape around them so that you can see that they're very, very different and that they don't apply to you during the week. Now, once you've done that, you'll actually find it a lot easier for your behavior to change. And this is much, much easier than trying to use willpower every single day while you stare all of those old foods that you used to love directly in the face. Now, the next thing is the 12 on, 12 off principle. And this sounds a little bit funny, so I'm going to get into it and you'll understand it instantly. Now, if you eat 4 times per day, 4 hours apart, then you have a 12-hour window every day of not eating. And according to how insulin works, as we understand, you'll have approximately 10 hours per 24-hour period where your body can burn your own fat for energy. Now, of course, this is a great thing. So try and limit any late meals or really early starts, because having 12 hours on and then 12 hours off can really be a key to rapid fat loss. Now, if you do need a late night snack because you're hungry, stick with the recommended tablespoon of almond butter or natural peanut butter, because it's mostly fat and protein and it won't send out any more insulin, though your body will burn those calories from that food before it uses your own body fat storage for energy, so it's best not to do it every night. Now, water is incredibly important, and I know I've mentioned it already, but 8 to 10 glasses a day really is a starting point. And definitely don't include any tea or coffee in that count. In fact, for every cup of tea or coffee you have, I want you to add a glass of water. Now that brings us on to coffee and tea. Now you can definitely enjoy coffee and tea with this diet, but what I want you to do is hold the milk and hold the sugar. Now if that sounds a little bit crazy, there are a few other things we can add back in to make things taste great and also keep our insulin levels to a minimum. So I want you to try having coffee or tea with some cinnamon. And there's a kind of cinnamon that tastes great, and that's Saigon cinnamon. You should be able to find it at your local grocery store. Now, if you're really missing something that's white in your coffee or tea, then you can use 1 to 2 tablespoons of cream. But it's the kind of cream that doesn't have any sugar in it at all. Basically, it has 0 carbohydrates, so I want you to double check that nutrition panel. Now, if you're the kind of person that finds caffeine makes you feel hungry, then it's probably a better idea to go without it or to limit it. And I also want to encourage you to try coffee and tea without cream, because if you get really good coffee or tea, it actually tastes pretty great by itself. Another alternative you can try is vanilla essence, but do make sure that it's pure essence and not vanilla syrup. So that brings us on to all of those sugar-free syrups that you see at Starbucks and at your local coffee shop. Well, they contain so many artificial sweeteners that your body won't know what hit it, so they really are best avoided. One other alternative that some people have success with is using stevia to sweeten their coffee and tea. Now, stevia comes from a natural plant leaf and it's incredibly sweet, but it doesn't have any calories. So if you want to try that, then you can. But if you can go without any sweeteners, then that's what I recommend. The next thing we want to talk about is snacks. Now, snacks generally come in a range of different sizes and types, but at the end of the day, snacks shouldn't be needed with this meal schedule, because if you can rely on your 4 regular meals per day, then you shouldn't feel hungry between your meals. If you do regularly feel hungry, then I want you to adjust your portion sizes at your meals so that you're not hungry. Now, if you're still feeling like snacking, the chances are it's because it's a routine thing to do, or it's because you're bored, or worried, or frustrated. Now, generally speaking, these kind of cravings for snacks usually pass in the first 2 weeks, because your body gets a lot better at balancing blood sugar, and you start knowing that you can rely on those meals, and that actually helps you relax a little bit and not feel so anxious about food. If you're still finding like you need to snack, then the chances are there's probably some other reason other than hunger that you feel like going for those snacks. And so if that's the case, I want you to check out the times when you actually feel like snacking and have a think about what could actually be causing that urge. One thing that I do advise people to do, and that's photo logging their meals. Now, this doesn't have to take a lot of time, and it doesn't have to be a pain in the butt either. It's just a great way to be able to quickly glance back at what you've been eating to check if you're sticking at the program pretty well. It's also a great way of seeing if you've been eating the same thing over and over again, which might have led to feeling a little bit bored with the food. Now, the easiest way to do this is use your camera phone, or use a digital camera if your phone doesn't have a camera, and I've put together some instructions that you can download right on this page to make things really easy for you. Now, I think after a few weeks, it's going to be really interesting for you to go back and check out all of those things that you've been eating, and it might actually give you some great ideas for some new meals that you could try as well. Now, last but not least, and you know that I said I'd mention it again, is sleep. And I want to reiterate that if you can maintain a consistent sleep schedule, and if you can get around 8 to 9 hours per night, then you'll know that sleep, or a lack of sleep, isn't causing you to slow down with your fat loss. But if you're only getting around 6 hours a night, well, you really should expect slower fat loss. And that's just the reality of how much your body needs sleep. So that rounds out our routine, and that's going to get you set up for the easiest possible way to follow these principles to get the results that you want to get.